everybody and welcome back to Typical City. João Neves is a wanted man, wanted by United, Liverpool, PSG and Manchester City. What a player he is, a very young talent. So is he going to fit into the Manchester City squad? Do City need to be targeting someone a little bit more experienced? Or is this player one for the future that's going to become an absolute superstar? I believe he is. My personal and humble opinion is that he's an extremely good player, but plenty of room for improvement. With Pep Guardiola as your coach, with Rodri playing alongside you, you have every chance of making it as a pretty successful central midfielder. Now, the fact that we're joining the race and, in fact, leading the race for his signature with João Neves being targeted by United, PSG and Liverpool, as I've already said. In fact, United are willing to spend £20 million less than what Benfica are asking for. Now, João Neves has a £110 million release clause and are accepting around 85 million, apparently. With United last week had a bid rejected at 65 million. I don't know who United think they are anymore. They've already gone in for Branthwaite with the most lowball offer, a humiliating offer. Humiliating to them. Why go in for such ridiculous low offers for these players? United rocking up to Harrods, trying to buy designer gear with expired coupons, £5 and half a packet of fruit pastels and think you're going to come away with some exclusive designer gear. Mate, cough it up. If you want to pay big, you got to pay big. Big clubs pay big money for the best players if they're worth it. Now, is João Neves worth it? What I'm going to do in this video is compare him to players of a similar ilk, the young players, because what I did bunch him in my latest video with Kimmich and Bruno Guimaraes. And I mean, that's harsh, in truth, because those players, Kimmich, absolute peaking, Guimaraes right in the peak, Rodri right in the peak. I compared him to Gundogan, and I put Neves in that list. He did all right. He compared, you know, he wasn't like absolutely below those types of players, but I think it's a little fairer to compare him to players of a similar age, same position, similar age. So that's what I'm going to do in this video. So let's look at the basic stuff first of all. Who I'm comparing to as well. So João Neves, let's start with him. Defensive midfielder, Portugal, 19 years old. So a huge amount of improvement is available to him. What a future this guy has. €55 million euro market value, which I think City can look more like double that, because £85 million is roughly about 100 million euros we're going to have to cough up. Which I think Benfica will be open to that. That's what reports are suggesting at least, but he's got a contract till 2028. So we have to pay. You have to pay the big money. The other player I'm comparing to is Adam Wharton, who is another player that City have targeted. Well, rumours are to be believed. I'm not convinced in truth. He looks a good player, very promising. Last season, though, he was a mixture of time at Blackburn as well as Crystal Palace. 20 years old, market value of 30 million euros, and his contract expires in 2029. So you're going to have to pay the English tax on that. Personally, João Neves all day long. And I'll get into the stats in a minute, and you're going to see why João Neves is the player that is such a wanted man. I'll get onto that shortly. The next player, Romeo Lavia. Now, the stats that I'm going to provide for him in a minute are the season before when he was at Southampton, because last season Romeo Lavia had 32 minutes to his name in 2023-2024 due to a hamstring injury, so pretty harsh to compare him and last season to compare to Wharton and Neves, for example. So I've done him a favour and compared him to the previous season when he was at Southampton. Belgian, 20 years old, 40 million euros. So no one in this list that you're going to see is older than 21, which is why I'm comparing the similar players of a similar age, similar sort of quality. Contract expires. I'm not interested in Romeo Lavia, to be honest. I don't think City are. We've let him go. We're not going to be signing the likes of Romeo Lavia. He's not one that we will be targeting in the slightest. But similar age, that same position, which is why he's been bunched in for this comparison. Kobbie Mainoo, someone who there's no way we'd sign him. United would never do business with us unless he ran out his contract purposefully. There's no way Kobbie Mainoo would ever wear a Manchester City shirt. Though we did target him. There were links to him that City were eyeing him up last year. So again, similar position. This player a little bit more of a number 8 rather than a number 6, but still can play as that number 6. But yeah, he tends to drift a little bit further forward than Neves and Wharton do. But yeah, brilliant talent, Kobbie Mainoo, no denying that. 19 years old, 50 million euros market value, 2027 contract expires. Camavinga, now that's a harsh player to throw in. Real Madrid, that is like pretty much cemented in their squad right now. Or is he? The minutes were surprising. I'll show you them in a minute. But 21 years old, the oldest player on this list, 100 million euro market value, 2029. Someone we're not targeting, but again, just for the sake of comparison, to see how João Neves compares to the likes of these players. Final players, Carlos Baleba, recently signed by Brighton, who are known for unearthing gems, and he looks like a really promising player. 22 million euro market value, 20 years old. Contract expires in 2028. Now let's look at the stats. Minutes played for last season, and as you can see, I've had to put 2022, 2023 for Romeo Lavia. So all of his stats throughout this are based on the season before last season, just because he didn't play at all the last season in 23-24. Wharton tops the list quite comfortably as well, with a lot of those minutes being played at Blackburn, so factor in that his minutes weren't Premier League minutes, not all of them at least. I'd say probably more than half were Championship minutes, which helps you, in truth, because the competition isn't quite as fierce as Premier League. Neves is in Benfica, and Mainoo, obviously, Premier League, La Liga, and Premier League for Baleba. Lavia was Premier League as well for Southampton. Right, goals and assists versus per 90. So all of these stats you're going to see are ranked per the outside circle, usually per 90 or percentages. So they're ranked on the outside column, but the inside column is going to be their raw data. So goals and assists for the 23-24 season, not really what interests me, to be honest, for these types of players. They're defensive midfielders, or at best number 8. I'm not really interested in that. It's not their job to be getting goals and assists. It's a nice bonus, isn't it, to see them get these numbers. Adam Wharton comfortably at the top there, double second place in joint second place with Mainoo and Neves, but Mainoo has got a slightly better per 90 minutes ratio for goals and assists to Neves, but does play much further forward, as does Adam Wharton. Neves is very much a sitter, sits in front of that back four. Camavinga with 2, Lavia with 1, Baleba with 0. Progressive passes versus per 90 minutes. So this is where it gets a little bit interesting now to see the types of players. What type of midfielder are they? Progressive passes is anything further than 10 yards. Breaking the lines effectively, being forward-thinking in your passing range, which Neves comfortably top of the list per 90 at least. Wharton has got 220 to his name, but per 90 minutes is only 6.08 compared to Neves, who's got 6.65 per 90 minutes, which is, again, comfortably top of the list, which, again, you're starting to see the reason why this player is started, and this is just the tip of the iceberg, as to why Neves is such a highly sought-after talent. Pass percentage completion versus progressive passing distance in yards. Now, let's jump straight to the bottom, really. This highlight what these stats mean here. Progressive passing distance in yards is how far forward you pass the ball. So if you're passing the ball sideways, you're not going to get any numbers. You're passing the ball forwards very little, like Carlos Baleba is. A lot of sideways passes, only 2,285 yards has he passed the ball forward during last season. And that's got him a 91.7% passing percentage completion. It's easier to pass the ball sideways. You're more likely to give up the ball passing the ball forwards because it's a riskier pass. So for Neves to maintain an 88.5% passing completion while still having the most yards as well, he's got, what is it, the 3rd highest passing percentage completion on this list. So massively above Adam Wharton, who's got 80.7%, which is very loose with the football. Lavia, 86.2%, Neves is higher, 86.2%. Mainoo's got, Neves is higher, but Mainoo's passing it sideways, mate. He's not passing the ball forwards. 2,600 yards compared to Neves' 8,600 yards, which is really, really impressive. Again, ball retention is fantastic with Neves there. Finding a pass, key passes preferably. Really good. A little bit more on the defensive side now. What's he about tackling-wise? Tackles won versus per 90. Only Camavinga beats Neves in that regard. Neves has actually got more tackles to his name over the course of the season to Camavinga, but per 90 a little bit less. The only one with Camavinga in the 2 range. All the rest are 1 points, whatever, all the way down to Mainu, who, I mean, one thing that shines is a lot of praise for Mainu right now, and he doesn't come out smelling of roses in these stats that I'm providing you. So I think United need to cool their jets a little bit about Mainu. Good player, looks really good, but statistically there are players that are better than him. Quite a bit as well. So tackles-wise, bottom of the list, Mainu, Neves and Camavinga at the top as 2 tackling machines. Young as well. We've got to factor in their age to all these players. They're all so young. The oldest being Camavinga at 21 years old. Neves has got 2 years on Camavinga. Don't forget that. Right. Miscontrols. This is possession-wise. This is where I wanted to highlight, like I did with Bruno Guimaraes. I'm not going to ignore weaknesses. Clearly, that is a weak spot to Neves. Loose. He needs to sort that out. That's a problem to his game. He's a little bit loose with his first touch. Versus per 90 as well, at the top. He's got quite high numbers over the course of the season. 39. Mainu, by the way, is second again. So again, loose first touch for Mainu, just like Neves, but Neves is at the top. Lavia with a nice tight touch. Control looks good for Lavia, but Neves, a side of his game that needs improving, definitely. Now then, dispossessed. Neves, zoom, right to the bottom, and this is the list that you want to be bottom of. So once he gets that first touch, he doesn't lose the ball. Once he gets that first touch right, he keeps the ball, he doesn't lose it. That's what this suggests. And that's versus per 90 as well, which is fantastic from Neves to have such a low number per 90 as well. Only 2, him and Adam Wharton, are less than once per game being dispossessed, which is brilliant, really good. And this is echoed again in the next set of stats, which is take on attempts versus successful percentage. Again, this is the list you want to be top of. Neves is top of that. Take on attempts, 73 attempts. Massively ahead of most people other than Camavinga, who's got 69. But in terms of percentage completion, 56.2. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. So that's why, and that echoes the lack of being dispossessed. Just that miscontrol, that's what he needs to work on. Just work on his first touch. That should come with age, hopefully. A little bit of composure. Once that ball's fired into you, bring it under your control. But the great news is, once he does bring it under his control, he doesn't lose it. And that's brilliant. That's what City need. We need that level of composure, that control that we ask for. Put him alongside Rodri. Brilliant. Progressive carries per 90. Camavinga tips the top of the list comfortably as well. Camavinga's impressive, isn't he, in this? With progressive carries and per 90, 2.43, massively ahead of everyone else. But Neves, second on the list, and he's quite comfortably ahead of third place in Baleba as well, which is, again, really good. So the only thing that's shone to me so far is his miscontrols. Everything else, Neves is either second or first in the list for statistics that you want a Manchester City midfielder to be good at. And that's what's fantastic about Neves and why he's so highly sought after. And for me, that finishes the stats, and I'm pleased. I really think this makes sense for City. The persuadability, he's persuadable. That's the thing with being young. With a Kimmich, with a Bruno Guimaraes, you're going to have to promise them so many minutes. And the one thing that City may struggle to do is promise Neves the same amount of minutes that a United or a Liverpool or a PSG could offer. Because he knows he's got Rodri to compete with. But depends on his priorities. Is he a willing learner? Is he going to join Manchester City or at least enter the negotiations with a mindset that I want to learn? You know, I don't have to play football week in, week out. I understand. I'm 19 years old. The player who's ahead of me in my position is the best player in the world, arguably right now, full stop, but certainly in his position. Rodri is hands down the best midfielder right now in the world. Certainly in that sitting, whether it's a 6 or an 8. For me, Rodri, sensational. So he's got Rodri ahead of him. He will understand that. If he's got his head screwed on, he will at least. And that brings in the maturity side of things. And he'll be able to learn from Rodri, learn from Pep Guardiola. But if he's eager to get those minutes that we might not be able to promise him, we can certainly play him alongside Rodri. And he probably will get a good, probably 2,500 minutes in a City shirt if he was to sign for us. but he's not going to get the 3,000, 4,000 minutes that Rodri probably will. So we'd have to understand that. But at 19 years old, there's a decade, at least a decade ahead of him. If the next club he signs for could have this player for a decade, and what a player they've got. What do you think, Blues? Is he worth the money? £85 million? Would you spend it? Get in the comments below. Let me know your thoughts. Like and subscribe to Typical City, and I'll see you in the next one.
This is Typical City now.